Thank you very much. Please, everyone, have a seat. We got a lot to talk about. Now I gotta tell you how this show came to be. You guys know I live in Ohio. In January, when this nigga Trump and Elon made this Doge thing and gonna plunge 20% in the first quarter. And I don't mean to talk like a white. But boy, they did that, didn't they? And then when this nigga deployed the National Guard in my hometown and took the police department from the mayor. Oh, DC niggas, we don't like that. But then my governor in Ohio sent our National Guard to police my hometown. And I called these niggas and said, I'm pulling up. Because these niggas is trying to take the chocolate out of Chocolate City. I said, I gotta go home while it's still a city I remember. And then I went on Instagram and saw all the protests in D.C. and there was a bunch of white people like, not on our streets. I said, oh no, it's too late. These whites are entrenched. Not on our goddamn streets, you don't. This nigga Trump was talking like he goes out to dinner. It's not like that. It's happening in California. It's happening in Oregon. It's happening in Illinois. And it's happening in Memphis. And niggas in Memphis, they might need it. You gotta be reasonable. I don't know if you've been to Memphis recently, but them niggas already stole 2 tanks from the National Guard, so you already know. You already know, you know. And I came here mad, ready to fight, but when I drove through the city, it looked clean, guys. I gotta tell you, it looked clean. I only saw one guy take a shit on the street. But you know what? He had a bag. That nigga picked it up. I was waiting for somebody to do something about the homeless. You know what's fucked up about D.C.? We the nation's capital, and nobody even gives a fuck about the homeless. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I feel like I'm the only one that does. Now, y'all don't know this, but quietly, for the last 2 years, I have been secretly working with Washington's homeless, and I have spent $2 million already on my homeless project. It's a Thriller dance. And you got a big treat coming up on Halloween, you'll see. And I'm sorry I didn't come home sooner, but I've been very busy in Ohio. And a lot of people say, what are you doing out there? And I don't know if you know this, but this is true. I'll tell you what I've been doing. The town that I've been living in for the last 25 years, I bought most of it. I like it there. Ohio, look. All the whites are poor out there, but these are like the dirty hippie whites, and I like them. I like these whites. And they like me too. But you know what I learned about liberal white people? Liberal white people let black people do whatever the fuck they want until you buy most of their town. Oh, they frowned on that. Them whites got real suspicious. But you know what? I don't blame them. Because, no, for real, because, look, if I was white and the people in this town were black, you know what they'd say? They would say I was gentle. These people. I own everything, nigga, everything. I used to be mad at white people when I was young because I thought they were unfair. But now that I have all this property, I understand them. It's fun. Feels good to walk up to white people like, are you supposed to be here? Calling the police. It's fun. I own so much property in this town, and this is true. These white capitalists. I'll be walking down the street minding my own business, and they come up to me with their concerns. Dave, congratulations on buying the whole goddamn town. But you need to start thinking about some affordable housing around here. And I'll be like, well, actually, champ, I can afford my house. That sounds like some shit you need to worry about. Because if I think about it, I can afford your house too. So if you want to sell, come holler at your boy. I'm collecting the whole town. I'm collecting the whole goddamn town. But not long ago, these motherfuckers built a brand new fire station out of the blue. Where the fuck they get this money from? I was like, what the fuck is this? And then, you know what they did? This is some real racist shit. They tried to sell the old fire station at an auction when they knew I was going to be out of town. It's fucked up. But it's far too late for that. I got that whole town rigged with snitches. Them niggas couldn't wait to tell me. They was running up, my lord, I have news, my lord. I was like, what's going on? Is this, you say, a firehouse? I turned that motherfucker into a comedy and music club. We be rocking in there. Clip's been there, we all be out there rocking. Every famous person I've ever met, I asked him to play that club. I seen Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones at a party. I asked him, I said, yo, Mick. I said, Mick, you got to come to Ohio and play my club. And he was into it. He was like, all right. He said, all right. I like playing clubs. He said, but tell me about the town. I said, well, what do you want to know? And that nigga looked at me like you know, Mick Jagger look. He said, are there girls there? He knew something was wrong. He's like, no. Come on, Dave, you know, like the kind of girls that I like. I said, Mick, I don't know what kind of girls you like. Nigga said, you know, you've heard my music. Are there white bitches with dirty feet? I said, Mick, you are going to love this place. Mick, these bitches will put a ring around a public. I'm not a drug guy at all, right? But I am in show business, you know what I mean? So I've been to every kind of party. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, I smoke weed, but I don't consider weed a drug. But you know how show business is. I've been to cocaine parties, I've been to weed parties, I've been to all the parties, and I'm just telling you the truth, what I've seen. Coke bitches are way prettier than weed bitches are. I be looking at weed bitches like, damn, bitches, you sleep in those clothes? The fuck's going on with you? No energy in the face. Get your dick out of my face, man. That's how weed girl sounds. Not gonna suck your cock, man. The mouth is dry as a bone. You ever get some weed head? Feels gross, doesn't it? Feels like a cat sucking your dick. Like, what kind of... How do you not have any moisture in your mouth? Bitch, go wet your whistle and try again, would you? Drink some water. Yuck. Yuck. I've been getting a lot of grief, again, because I did a comedy festival in Saudi Arabia. and you hear those cheers, that's black people. America's whites, they're furious. Boy, I gotta tell you something. I've never not felt guilty about something like I've never felt. I don't feel guilty at all. You know, and Bill Maher, the famous comedian, I've known Bill since I was like 18, 19 years old. I'm tired of this little smug, cracker-ass commentary. These motherfuckers act like because I did a comedy festival in Saudi Arabia, I somehow betrayed my principles. Well, no, I know I didn't. I know. No. No, come on, everybody, let me do this. And I'm sure, I know, all right, now everybody calm down. No, I'm sure I'm right. First of all, what did they say? They said, well, Saudi Arabia killed a journalist. And rest in peace, Jamal Khashoggi. I'm sorry that he got murdered in such a heinous... Also, I mean, look, bro, Israel's killed 240 journalists in the last 3 months. So I didn't know y'all was still counting. These niggas clown me because I was on stage in Saudi Arabia. I didn't tell them to put this in the paper. I just said it on stage. I said, it's easier to talk in Saudi Arabia for me than it is in America. And niggas felt some kind of way. Oh, I stand 10 toes on that. Don't forget what I just went through. 2 years something. Transgender jokes went over very well in Saudi Arabia. Them niggas couldn't get enough of that shit. I was in the pocket, nigga. I was like, where have you been? Every article said the comedians hoard themselves out to a dictator, but all the articles have my picture on it. And you know what? I can't even get mad, because, you know, to be fair, I don't even work at Netflix no more, nigga. You know what my new job is? I sit by the phone and wait for them Arabs to call me. Can I help you guys? What do you need? I love working in the Middle East. That's my second show I did over there. I did a show 3 months before that. I was in Abu Dhabi. Them niggas had a comedy festival too. And let me tell you something. Now, y'all never been in the Middle East. Here's some wild shit about them you might not know. You know how everybody got like a dog around here? Out there, they don't fuck with dogs. You know what they do? They got birds, falcons, nigga. These niggas have with falcons. I'm like, that shit is dope. And, you know, here in D.C., we might see like a pimp here or there, and that's... But I've never seen a nigga pimp a bird. That nigga just had the bird like, bring me a rabbit, and that motherfucking bird just bring this nigga a rabbit. And he just give the bird a piece and eat the rest himself. So I saw a guy at the mall with one of these falcons. We were just talking about bullshit. And I don't know why I even thought to do this. Something just came over me. I said, yo, nigga, let me borrow that falcon. He did it. He gave me the mitten and he gave me the falcon. Now, I've done a lot of fly shit in my life, but the screaming, I had a live falcon on my arm. Niggas went crazy. Crowd was going nuts. This is their national bird. Now, I don't know shit about the bird. Turns out, this species of falcon that was on my arm is the single fastest creature on Earth. I didn't know that. Apparently, when it hunts, it flies straight up, and then it dives down at 240 miles an hour, they've clocked it at. It strikes its prey dead, and then it flies off and comes back and gets whatever it killed. I didn't know that. And when I was walking through the arena, the crowd was screaming, but the falcon, but it didn't trip. Now, I didn't know this mask is part of the falcon's training. If you take the mask off the falcon, it will think that it's time to hunt. Boy, I wish he told me that. Because I was on stage killing it, and the Falcon was just looking all stupid like this, and I'm like, oh man, this nigga can't even see the show. So I took the mask off. Man, this Falcon lost his goddamn mind. Mayhem ensued. That motherfucker fluttered like this and flew off my arm. And at first, everybody was clapping, yeah. And that nigga dove down. 240 transgender bitch, when it hit her, her dick popped out. Everybody screamed. I was like, oh shit. I didn't know what to do. Next thing I know, the police, the Arab police came, and these niggas just ushered me off stage. I didn't realize that I was under arrest. I said, what's the meaning of this? But clearly, these guys know it was an accident. And the next thing I know, they charged me with murder. I said, murder? The fuck, this was an accident. And then they had me in the court, and I killed this bitch on purpose. I said, I didn't even know this bitch was trans till her dick popped out. This is the goddamn outrage. I'm an American. I still didn't think I was gonna get in trouble, but at the end of the case, this is the only word in the whole trial I understood. That nigga said, guilty. I said, what? And my whole life flashed before my eyes. I said, I wish I never came out here. You're probably wondering how I'm here tonight. Well, I didn't know this at the time, but I found out, lucky for me, killing a transgender in the Middle East. Yeah, it's way easier to talk in Saudi Arabia. Jimmy Kimmel got canceled. Let me tell you something, too. Not only did they cancel Jimmy Kimmel, this guy Carr that runs the FCC had the nerve to say that Kimmel, if he wanted to get back on television, I don't know if Carr said this or somebody said this, they said this nigga has to pay Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA Foundation money, Trump, because the Supreme Court said that money was free speech. So you can spend your money however you want to speak. But if they make this nigga pay some money for some shit he doesn't believe in, well, then they're compelling him to say something that he does not mean. And 6 million, oh, excuse me. Listen, I made a lot of money, but I'll take money for free. And I know that the people in Saudi Arabia can't say all the things that I was allowed to say, but a deal's a deal, and the king said that I could say these things. So I looked at it like I was on a diplomatic mission. I gotta bring pussy jokes to the Middle East. Because they got all that pussy over there and they can't even talk about it. I said, I'll do it. Shit ain't what it used to be, is it? This nigga Puff got 50 months. Do it. Here's my thing about Puffy, and I gotta state my bias. Years ago, I got attacked on stage in California at the Hollywood Bowl. Now, this was a long time ago. At this time, Charlie Kirk was alive and well. Well, this is another reason it's hard to talk in America, because you know, if you talk for a living and see Charlie Kirk get murdered that way, I'm gonna be honest, nigga, white guy, and they killed this motherfucker. I said, these whites. We've never seen them like this. They're playing for keeps. And then remember the next day in the news, when all the information was still shoddy, they came out, they were like, apparently there were transgender messages inscribed on the bullets. I was at home like, oh no! I'm dead as fried chicken. And then weeks later, another bullet, child written on it. Another bullet had written on it, if you're reading this, you're gay. I was at home like, nigga, I'm gonna need to see these bullets. How the fuck is this nigga writing whole paragraphs on bullets? How big are these bullets? What is this nigga, a watchmaker? He can inscribe all this shit on a bullet? I'm not making light of Charlie Kirk dying, but I'm not sure what it means. And I'm not sure I believe what they say it means. I'll tell you what I don't believe. And the whites were quick to say this. They said, Charlie Kirk is this generation. Yeah, that's a reach. You know, they both got murdered in a terrible fashion. They both got shot in the neck, but that's about where those similarities end. Because Charlie Kirk is a motherfucking internet personality. No, by design. Fundamentally, you can't function like Dr. King. Internet niggas are negative because they have to be. Because nobody will engage them unless they say shit that makes them upset. That's Charlie Kirk. Could you imagine Dr. King was behaving like Charlie Kirk? For more content like this, I believe all black people should be free. Change my mind. The Congress took a vote that October 14th will be Charlie Kirk Remembrance Day, and everybody voted for it. No, I'm not gonna boo it. You can remember, no. Remember that nigga if you want to. And remember him however you want to. But I do know that most of those Congress people voted for that because they're afraid of police. I was on stage not long ago in the States and niggas got mad because I said, well, you know, maybe Puff will get off. And I said, I hope so. And the crowd was like, boo. Okay, look, it's not that I think Puff is right, but when I got attacked in LA at the Hollywood Bowl, people forget Puff was the guy that tackled my attacker. He saved my life. It's a hard nigga to be mad at after that. I had security that night, but you know what I mean? Them niggas they just wasn't ready. Them niggas had some slippery shoes on or something. They ran out. All them niggas slipped and fell about that baby oil. I was like, what did those niggas slip on? $1,000 bottles of baby oil, that's a lie. But remember, he wasn't on trial for having 1,000 bottles of baby oil because it's not a crime to have 1,000 bottles of baby oil. It's gross. It's not illegal. And I'm gonna tell you something else I haven't said, but this is true. In LA one night, I shouldn't. No, I didn't see none of the stuff they said in that trial. I walked through that nigga's living room. House was clean, traction on the floor, nothing slippery. Walk right through. Perfectly normal evening. The only thing in hindsight, but at the time it didn't mean nothing to me. I didn't think about it until after I found all that stuff out, but in hindsight it was fucked up. But we was on this back patio, and we was drinking and laughing, talking, and that nigga Puff started swirling his drink like this, and he goes, so Dave. You know me, I was like, I don't know, nigga, books, video games, I didn't know that was my big chance to fuck Cassie. God bless her. I'm not making light of her. What she went through was terrible. But remember, because they kept showing this video of him beating her up in a hotel hallway, which was a terrible video. But he wasn't on trial for that. $5 million is what I heard, which doesn't make it right. But I mean, come on, nigga. I do know niggas that have fought Floyd Mayweather for less money than that. And them niggas had to fight for 36 minutes. But Cassie is a gangster. She did something that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. She had to testify about her sex life. Boy, that's tough. God save us all from that. Anything you say about sex publicly is going to sound bad. Even if you're talking about fucking your wife face to face. If the judge is like, tell me about when you... Well, yes, I looked at her in her cold, bored eyes, and then I pulled those big panties aside, and it's like a bush that just screams, I don't give a fuck, and I just, you know what I mean? Just power through it, you know what I mean? Cassie had to do way harder than that. Them questions, they was asking her all kinds. Did Sean Combs pee in your mouth? I was like, oh my God. She didn't hesitate. Guess what? Tonight I had done something, I'd like prepared something that I wanted to try. It's hard though, but I really wanted. It's the longest closer in the history of my career. I'm gonna do it, but boy, this is gonna take a lot of focus. So please don't yell out and distract me, just enjoy it. No, it's hard, you know, like, look, man, closing the show is very important. So tonight I'm gonna do 2 different closes. I'll do my closer for DC, and then after that, this bitch screamed like a car alarm. Did you hear that? Did everybody else hear that? Jesus Christ. All right, and then after that, if I can get to it, I'll do my closer from Saudi Arabia. All right, Comedy Club lights. I love you too. Let me concentrate. When you see it, you'll understand this is harder to do this than you think. Hold on. Go ahead, keep screaming. Give me a drink. I love you too, homie. Listen, I say this hoping that this brings somebody in this audience peace. I really do mean what I'm about to say. I know how it is right now. I understand how a lot of people feel. Turn your walkie down, champ. I know how a lot of you guys are feeling right now. You can't hear me? Can you hear me? It's not gonna give me much time. I know how people are feeling right now, and I hope that this brings you peace. I feel that way too. Without question. 1,000% without question, all of us, individually and collectively, are living through some sort of a conspiracy, I'm sure. That feeling you have that something is wrong, or you might feel like, hey, am I right about this? Am I crazy? No, nigga. No, you're not crazy. This thing you're feeling, I'm just. If you don't know what the conspiracy is, then just say that. I don't know is an acceptable answer. In fact, if you don't know, it is the best answer. But all this fucking guessing out loud about what the conspiracy is, I'm begging you, please, shut the fuck up. You're gonna make everybody sick that way. You can say I feel, you can say I think or I suspect, or it looks to me like, but please stop saying you know. Because in times like this, the last person... But here's what I think. Somehow this country went wrong. In 1910, I narrowed it down to a specific dude. It has something to do, and think about what I say later, not now. It has something to do with Jack Johnson, first black heavyweight champion of the world. And the heavyweight championship, to this day, is the most prestigious title in sports. But in 1908, only white fighters had that distinction. Not because black fighters weren't good enough, but because no white fighter would give any black person the opportunity to lay their hands on them. And a guy named Tommy Burns became heavyweight champion. And Tommy Burns was an anomaly. He was Canadian. And he said, I am the heavyweight champion. He said, I am not the champion of Canada. I am not the champion of white men. I am the heavyweight champion of the world. And I will defend my championship against all comers. And boy, Jack Johnson got the opportunity to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, not from an American like he was, but from a Canadian. Now, you think that Americans would root for Jack Johnson because he was an American. No, this nigga was blacker than Wesley Snipes. Tommy Burns was at that point above him, and you know, he beat the fuck out of Tommy Burns in Sydney, Australia. And all the white fighters in America were like, you see what we mean? Fighting those goddamn dirty fighting monkeys. Before Tommy Burns, the heavyweight champion, had retired, there was a man named Jim Jeffries. And everyone said Jack Johnson's not the real champion. They said Jim Jeffries is a real champion. And it's a good thing he's not fighting or he'll beat your black ass, Jack Johnson. So Jack Johnson called out Jim Jeffries. It happened first in London. Jim Jeffries was in a parade in London, and he said, I say, old boy, I sure would like to give you a wallop. Jim Jeffries just looking at him, what the fuck? And then Jim Jeffries was in a parade in Sydney, Australia, and Jack Johnson stepped out of the crowd again. I say, old boy, I sure do want to give you the old one, too. And Jim Jeffries was looking like, how does this nigga have a passport? Again, this was 1910. The hallmark of Jack Johnson's character was audacity. There's a story about him that's in line. And the police pulled Jack Johnson's black ass over. You know, this was 1910. He must have been flying 13, 14 miles an hour. The police stopped him. The police said, it costs $200 for a nigger to speed on our roads down here. Back then, $200 was like getting a $50,000 ticket. This nigga Jack Johnson didn't hesitate. He gave him $400 and said, I'm coming back this way. After months of persistence against Tim Jeffries on the 4th of July, this is where the phrase, the Great White Hope, came from. They were dying to find any white man that could put this nigga in his place. I'll tell you what, on the 4th of July, Jim Jeffries was not the guy. Jack Johnson fucked his ass up. And Jack Johnson did what they call in boxing, carried the fight, which means he could have knocked him out in the early rounds, but he didn't want to die. He wanted to make it look good, but when he got sick of it, because back then it wasn't no like 15-round fights, niggas just fought till they couldn't fight anymore. And when Jack Johnson got bored, put him away off, because they didn't want any imagery of this nigga knocking out their hope. And on July 5th, all over the United States, there were riots, white riots, where they killed many black people to make sure that the rest of these niggas knew their place. Because Jack Johnson was the first black person to physically confront the color line and win. And here's the punchline. He didn't just leave the arena with his life. Jack Johnson had a very particular proclivity. Talk about it. You see, Jack Johnson loved fucking white women. Almost exclusively, he would fuck white women. And man, the audacity of this nigga beating white men up and fucking their bitches. The black boxing world was elated. And every great black fighter celebrated Jack Johnson. And they came to Jack Johnson, they said, Jack, congratulations, can I get a title fight? And Jack Johnson, just like his white predecessors, said, well, I don't fight black fighters. I'm in the business of beating up white guys. After another, they lined up the great white hopes, and Jack Johnson would vanquish them all. In fact, it took an act of Congress to stop him. Congressman named Mann from Illinois came up with an act called the Mann Act. The Mann Act is the law that says it is illegal to take a woman across state lines for the purposes of debauchery. And my line of work, gotta know shit like that. Jack Johnson got tried, prosecuted, convicted of the Mann Act, fled the country, was on the run for years, and it ruined. This is one of my favorite quotes that any American ever said. He said, I risk everything for my pleasure. You know, having freedom is one thing. Not having freedom is another thing. But using freedom that you don't have takes an enormous amount of courage, no matter how selfish you are with it. And Jack Johnson is an American riddle that we've got to solve. Him at the National Harbor, and I wasn't performing. I was at a Stevie Wonder show, and Stevie Wonder didn't know I was there. I was on the side stage. I got there late. He was already doing the show. And this was a very special night. It was the night before Aretha Franklin's funeral. And Aretha Franklin was a very special person to me. The first time I ever played Radio City, she gave me a job as her opening act. Mean boss, but great artist. He started to sing a medley of all the songs that he had ever written for Aretha Franklin. And man, I got to tell you, it was a lot. Huge hits that I didn't even know he wrote. And the crowd was grooving and celebrating their life. And just suddenly, in the middle of it, Stevie broke down crying. Put his head down on the piano, and I could hear him sob. And I was drunk. And it hurts a man to hear another man cry. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, I must go to him. And I just walked out on stage. And you know, it was home. Like when the crowd saw. And I sat down next to him at the piano and I go, Steve, it's me. And then he smiled real big and we started cracking jokes and singing songs. And then after the show, we were backstage and he asked me, he said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm gonna go fly to Detroit with you. Pay my respects to Miss Franklin. And he said, no. That's the way. And Stevie said, I need you to do me a favor. He said, John McCain is laying in state at the Capitol. He said, I want you to go pay our respects to him. And I said, nigga, I would much rather go to Detroit with you. And then Stevie gave me that look. He just looked like this, like, he didn't even know I was all the way over here, didn't he? So I went. He just told me to do that I won't do is stop smoking. That I won't do yet. But I did it. I waited in line, and then I got all the way up to Senator McCain's casket, and I was just like, Stevie Wonder sent me. Goodbye, nigga. And I just walked off. That's what he wanted us. I did it. A lot of people don't know this, but people from Washington know this, who are my age. A lot of people don't know that Martin Luther King, unlike Charlie Kirk, had a harder time being remembered. Today is a holiday is because the King family and Stevie Wonder lobbied very hard and very long for that holiday. People forget that what they call Black Happy Birthday, the Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday, was a protest song about making the King holiday a reality. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. And it was so effective. Finally, the Senate voted on it. 99 out of, except for one, John McCain. The guy that Stevie sent me to say goodbye to. What a great man Stevie Wonder is. How much this country could learn from a man like that. John McCain, God bless him, he got himself in a pickle for that vote, but it came back to get his ass years later. Years later, he was running for president and had to run against the first nigga to ever get a party nomination. And Barack Obama got that nomination. And of all the votes in McCain's long career as a senator, that vote against that King holiday had never haunted him like it did at that time. So how did he counter that? I'll tell you what he did. If you remember, John McCain sponsored a bill to pardon Jack Johnson posthumously of the Mann Act. Yes, he did sponsor that bill to pardon Jack Johnson of the Mann Act. The Mann Act is precisely the law that Sean's Unstoppable Nigger Act. Yeah, something else was going on, but I don't know. Are you guys bored? Okay, I'm going to keep going. There's more. I hate conspiracy theories, but I'll tell you one about, well, and this is not even a theory. This part I know is a fact. Did you know when I left D.C. and moved to New York in the 90s, the New York City Police Department had a hip-hop police task force? Did you know that? And this task force would follow anybody that was involved in hip-hop culture around. Not just rappers, drug dealers, because they thought that it was connected somehow. Even young comedians like me. Anybody that was just on that scene, they knew who everybody was and what everybody was doing. And back in those days, I used to go to nightclubs, but sometimes I'd go to a club and the lights would be a little bit different. And I didn't notice, but the OGs would pull me aside and be like, careful in the club, nigga. That the lighting was strange because the party was under surveillance. And they were just telling me to watch my back. And, you know, I wasn't doing anything wrong anyway, nigga, just having a good time. Now, did you know that that task force was invented originally to follow just two people around? Those people was a guy named Christopher Wallace, a.k.a. the Notorious B.I.G., and Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, why is that this nigga has been under surveillance for at least 30 years? But just now, just doing all that, I bet you they seen him doing it for a long time. But why now? I don't know. It was strange in this case. Nobody called the police, except for Kid Cudi. And everybody called Kid Cudi a snitch. But he wasn't a snitch. A snitch is when two niggas do crime together and one of them gets caught and tells on the other one to get himself out of the trouble. Kid Cudi was violated by Puff. He alleged that Puff blew up his motherfucking Porsche with a Molotov cocktail and didn't stop there. He said he then alleged that... Oh, nigga, I'd have been furious. Kid Cudi said, I can't prove that he opened the gifts or nothing, but I came in the house and he was in there and the gifts was open and that nigga was just like, Merry Christmas, Playboy. So what was Kid Cudi supposed to do? He only got two choices. Either A, you're gonna have to do some gangster shit to this nigga that he's gonna have a hard time proving. Or if you're not built like that, and I do not believe that Kid Cudi is built like that, your last option is B. I, on the other hand, I'm built like that. If this nigga fuck my family's Christmas up, you better believe I'm gonna make him suffer for that shit. And niggas are gonna come up to me and tell me all about it and not even know I did it. Oh my God, Dave. Oh, did you hear what happened to Puffy? Oh my God, no. What happened? He was jogging by himself in Topanga Canyon. A falcon came out of nowhere and killed this nigga. Oh my God. I love hip hop music. I love many of the people that make that music. They taught me things and showed me things that I'd never seen for myself. Good things. For example, I was in Atlanta once. I'm almost done. Hang in there, champ. I was in Atlanta, and a rapper named T.I. called me up. Now, at this time, I didn't know him well. I know him better now, but I knew him well enough that he'd have my phone number. And the nigga called me up. He was like, Dave, I heard you was in my city. I said, fuck yeah, nigga, let's go. He said, meet me downstairs in your hotel valet. So I went downstairs. I thought he was fucking around. When I went down there, he was outside in the valet, sitting in a purple Phantom. This car must have been $1.5 million. Beautiful purple color with ivory white seats. It's the kind of car that you gotta have a chauffeur to drive, but for some reason, this nigga was driving it himself. And I didn't ask no questions. I just jumped in the car, and man, he showed me Atlanta. Everything. Outkast and them started rapping over there, and Future used to play in the playground over here, and the king grew up in that house right there. And he raised his children over here. And that's the church he preached in over there. And then we stopped at a red light, and these little black kids rushed the car from either side of the intersection with water bottles. These kids in Atlanta, if you know, They're called the water boys. Their whole hustle is they sell water to people who are stuck in that hot Atlanta traffic. I didn't know that. I just saw these young niggas running up on the car, so I locked the door like, fuck that. But T.I. rolled his window down, started giving the kids orders. Slow down, don't just run up on somebody's car. You don't know what they got in there. And smile so you look less threatening. And remember your manners. Yes, sir, no ma'am, please, thank you. That'll keep you alive. And keep that condensation on that water so it looks refreshing and delicious. And then that kid realized that he was talking to a legend. He said, oh my God. He said, thanks, T.I., and held his hand out for some money. And that nigga T.I. looked at him and said, I done gave you the game, and rolled up the window and drove away. That night, I did my show, and when I got off stage, T.I. was backstage with a friend of his that I didn't know. I just knew his friend was somebody because everyone was acting all excited that he was back there. So I asked him, I go, yo, Tip, who's your man? And he's like, oh, that right there? He goes, that there is the future of hip-hop. And I was like, nigga, will you just calm down? So then I asked the dude, I said, yo, my man, I said, what's your name? And the dude looked over, he said, I'm Nipsey. I'm not gonna go all into it, but I gotta tell you, that night, me and T.I. and Nipsey went out, and we had a fucking blast. Good time, not a freak-off fun, but fun. So much so that when I got home from the road, and my wife always asks me, she goes, Dave, how was your trip? Normally I'm just like, it was good. But this time I was like, babe, I met the coolest nigga. I said, this nigga's younger than me, but it's like he's older than me. And she's like, what? She goes, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know, bitch. She's like, I told her all about Nipsey. And what was funny about it is years later, I saw Nipsey's widow, and she pulled me aside. I'd never met her. And she said, I just want to tell you that my husband loved you. She said, he said he met you in Atlanta, and you had a wonderful time. I said, boy, that's fucking crazy. We sure did. Not long after I met Nipsey, I was in L.A. doing a show. And then after the show, I got a text from a guy that says, I'm at a party you need to be at. And I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. And he's like, no, nigga, you have to come to this party. So I'm thinking this must be the freak off, finally. And the party was at a place that I'd been to a million times, so I wasn't excited about being in that place. But when I walked in, it just was different. It was popping. And it turns out that the party was for Nipsey. Nipsey had been nominated for Rap Album of the Year, and everyone that he would have ever respected was at the party. T.I. was there, Snoop was there, Jay-Z was there, Puffy, before we knew he did all that stuff, was there. I was there, on and on and on. And as good as the party was, when I was partying, I was having fun, but I had a pit in my stomach because it reminded me of the 90s. And you can believe me or you cannot, the eye lights up. I just felt like, man, this party's under surveillance, but I didn't think too much of it. And then I went back home to Ohio, and I was taking a nap, and my wife shook me awake, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, David. I said, what's going on with you? She said, your friend is dead. And I'm old now, so I'm like, bitch, you're gonna have to be more specific than that. I know niggas with gout. But it was Nipsey. And this is why I feel for Charlie Kirk's fans, because I know what it's like to see, oh my God. It's so hard to accept that. And if you looked on the internet and saw all those terrible videos, because there was a very gory video of Nipsey's murder too. And then I looked in the comment section, and the internet was doing what it does, and everyone was coming up with one conspiracy theory after another. But the one that I kept seeing the most involved a holistic doctor in New York City. Have you heard it? It's a doctor named Dr. Sebi. A black holistic doctor in New York named Dr. Sebi claimed that he cured 2 people of AIDS and HIV holistically. And at that time, that was an illegal claim to make in the United States because of the FDA. So the federal government took Dr. Sebi to court, and New York State took Dr. Sebi to court. And Dr. Sebi beat both cases. And Nipsey Hussle, unbeknownst to many, was making a documentary. He was producing it about Dr. Sebi's work and his life. To keep that information from you and I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'll tell you something that I do know. The greatest comedian I've ever seen with my own eyes is Charlie Barnett. Charlie Barnett, a New York street comedy legend. He only did comedy on the streets, and I was lucky enough to meet him. He was a mentor of mine. Charlie Barnett was so good at performing on the streets that from the streets, he booked himself a job on Saturday Night Live and replaced him with Eddie Murphy. Oh, it could have been beautiful. But you gotta be able to read to do Saturday Night Live. I know y'all saw Bad Bunny last week. I'm not knocking him, and that nigga's reading, you know what I mean? Charlie Barnett wasn't deterred. He kept pushing. And he went on to do movies like DC Cab, which is where I first saw him. He used to be on Miami Vice. This motherfucker became a star in his own right. But the thing that kept derailing him is that Charlie was a terrible drug addict. He learned how to do street comedy from a guy named Swami X, and Swami X didn't just teach him how to do comedy, he taught him how to get high, and Charlie never could shake it. And when Charlie mentored me, even though he was a terrible drug addict, I never saw him high. He never wanted to do to me what Swami did to him. He made sure I understood that cocaine is just not for you, even though those bitches are prettier than them ugly weed bitches you be hanging out. One night, I saw Charlie in a comedy club, and he looked terrible. And this guy would avoid me if he was getting high. And he didn't say anything. And I said, "Are you high?" And he laughed. He said, "No, nigga, I'm not high." He said, "I'm dying." And I said, "What?" And he said, "I'm dying. I have AIDS, and I'm dying." Now, I must have been 18 or 19. I never met nobody that I knew of that had AIDS, but I gotta tell you, that shit had me shook. And then I started thinking of all his jokes, and he was hinting at it for years. The nigga used to have a joke where he said, "I took an AIDS test yesterday, I got a 65. He was on stage at the Apollo, and he told the crowd, "There's good and bad and everything." And the crowd was like, "Yeah." He said, "So what's good about crack?" And you know, everybody in Harlem was like, "Nothing." And he said, "Shit, crack brought the price of pussy down to $5. But when he said he had AIDS, I was so shocked that I looked at him to see if he was joking, and I knew. I said, he's serious. And I said, "Fuck that shit." He said, "What you mean?" I said, "You're not gonna die around me, nigga. That's not you." To Dr. Sebi, this is a fact. And Dr. Sebi treated Charlie Barnett for 3 months. This is a crazy story. I could make a whole movie about it. It's a long story, so I'll spare you. But the point of the story is, Charlie died of AIDS. DC, no matter how much this government or anyone else puts pressure on you, keep your wits about you. I'm here to kill each other.